Oh. I bet you did the CFWEP workshop. 06, 07.
Yeah, 06, yeah.
So it's my pleasure to introduce Kate Mattern. Kate was in a CFWEP Teacher Professional Development Workshop in 2006. Invited me to Anaconda High School to do outreach. Joined my lab and did an interdisciplinary Master's of Science degree. Won an MJ Murdoch Partnership in Science Fellowship, and then applied and got dollars for equipment for her school. Anaconda was so lucky to have her for the years and years that she worked with Anaconda students. I had one when I taught the giant poles class. It's a cell biology class. Again, fire hose a little bit. And a student came up and said, I said, oh, you know, well, I knew all that already. I had Miss Matt, you know, Miss Matt. And I'm like, so there are awesome teachers in our schools providing the very, very best. And when the schools don't realize how lucky they are, Montana Tech can lure them. So welcome, Kate. We're excited to meet you.
Thanks, Marisa. I was a little nervous about the amount of time that I was given to talk today because I'm all alone. And I think they worry about me because now I spend a lot of time with cadavers, and I think they want me to speak to real people. So I'm not sure what I can tell you that you all don't already know, but if I could choose a group of people that I could celebrate with, reminisce with, hang out with, you guys would be it. But since we're here, I want to take some time and to reflect on my journey and celebrate with you. So given the opportunity to reflect on my own Phages journey, it's hard to imagine any of it without going back to the beginning. And when I think back to my beginning, it would have to be with the young, naive girl who somehow, in her vast pre-20s wisdom, had the sense to get a teaching degree. And that's when I'd say it started. As a new teacher, I spent one painful, unbelievable year in Circle, Montana. I'm pretty sure I was in deliverance. I had not done my student teaching yet, and when I got a call in early August, they told me they would offer me a contract if I stayed past my student teaching. It sounded pretty good, but it was definitely the weirdest year of all my 23 years teaching. The next year, I couldn't wait to get out of Montana. I moved to Fernley, Nevada, and I spent 5 years in that bedroom community with my big takeaways being the ability to know when I was being sworn at in Spanish, how to fit 30 students safely into a room meant for 20, and how to seal door cracks so that snakes wouldn't become an unwanted classroom pet. My first 2 years, I taught 8th grade science. I barely survived, and I definitely was scarred. And my last 3 years, I taught anatomy and biology at the high school. And the courses were fine, but I didn't know people outside of the teachers that I worked with, and I had no connection to community members who could have enriched the educational experiences from a workforce or a scientific perspective. And I didn't have networks at universities that gave students the opportunities to see or do impactful science. While I was in Nevada, I gained a backwards appreciation for Montana, and I often found myself thinking about the unique hometown of Butte that I had grown up in. Yes, I survived that too. And I often thought about how so many scientists, historians, and teachers had connections that involved teaching students about the mining and reclamation that shaped the town. I remember having the kind of educational experience that didn't just take a village, it willingly incorporated the community. While I was in Nevada, I had friends that became the family I was missing, and I became a mom. I'm still trying to survive that one, and they're scarred, if you ask them. I knew that if I stayed in Nevada, I would have a decent career surrounded by decent people, good shopping, diverse food choices, but my daughter and my parents would miss out on an important relationship with each other. And I never knew if I would be immersed in Nevada's culture and history quite like I had been growing up in Butte. After becoming vested in the retirement system in Nevada, the choice was made to move back to Montana. When I did, I was more afraid of the unknown then than I was as a 22-year-old who had hopped in the car, driven cross-country job hunting the week before I got married. Turns out, moving back to Montana brought me to my senses. I smelled the trees like I had never been surrounded by them growing up. I heard everywhere conversations between educational stakeholders on opportunities our local history held for education to bridge the decisions surrounding reclamation, land use, and community stewardship. And I felt supported and loved by my parents as they'd always been to me, but so did my daughter. I saw myself fulfilling my educational goals for students in a way that linked the people and places in Montana to my passions and strengths. Here was the place that I hoped to inspire and connect. However, in the midst of moving back, I found myself in a painful divorce, a single mom who had just bought a property in the country fit for a small operation needing ranch hands, and starting a new job. What did I know? Mowing the back 40, lighting a pilot light, being a boomer in Anaconda, mountain lions running through my yard, co-parenting, horses that wanted to live on my front porch. It just seemed to keep telling me, you thought you had this life, just wait. Life in those first few years back was challenging, humbling, and Hallmark commercial worthy. Lots of tears. But at the same time, my high school classes in Anaconda High School were reaffirming my decision to teach, and to teach in Montana. The students were from families like I grew up in. They loved their community, the outdoors, and they were proud of their roots. Their families had pride in how they made their mark in their community and state, and they wanted to protect and improve their surroundings. Families wanted to give their children opportunities that they didn't have. And finding common ground to start discussions with them was easy. Talking to them about science was fun. Exploring ways to get outside and tie lessons to nature, or to teach them cool facts about their bodies, or just to give them support and encouragement to be comfortable, being curious. It happened in a way that it hadn't when I was in Nevada. These kids were like me at that age. I saw in them the quiet, shy, curious girl I was. Yes, there was a time I was quiet. I saw in them reminders of my classmates, my family. It was a small town, so some of them were my family. And I saw the opportunity to think about the situations, people, and places that had fostered a love of science in me. What was it that had made Butte and Anaconda so special? I began to think about how I could make the educational experience better, more accessible, and make it a part of who I was becoming as an educator. Which brings me to Marisa. Honestly, I don't think a single person here can tell their story without a key figure, if not the central player, being Marisa. I think I first met her at a CFWEP event, but my first vivid memory of her was at Lost Creek State Park. She had her son Kyle with her, who at the time was probably about 3. And there were several teachers present, local scientists, and we were looking at plant specimens. And a woman was teaching us how to identify plant species based on shared traits. So we were collecting specimens, we were hiking along the road, this beautiful backdrop of mountains and flowers. And the group was laughing and learning and fraternizing only like teachers can. And I was struck by the ease with which she handled herself. She was easily the smartest person there and the most unassuming. Her very, very tired, cranky little Kyle was on the verge of either a full-blown tantrum or a nap. She was strong, physically. He was squirming, fast, restless, but she was patient, kind, and unwavering. She carried him with ease up this steep hill to the top of the campground, and he eventually fell asleep in her arms. She didn't break a sweat. She never paused in her conversations, and she never put him down. She was also mentally on point. She never missed a beat, keeping up with everyone as she added to the intelligence of the objectives at hand, and she treated everyone as equals. I found myself gravitating toward her. As a mom, as someone who appreciated learning, let's be honest, as a fan. I learned that while Marisa treated and talked to everyone as an equal, this was a woman who was superior in everything she did. I was, and am still, in awe of her brain, her capacity to create, to evaluate, to encourage, to communicate, to befriend, and to do so with grace and humility. It is these traits that gave me the confidence to approach her as a friend, to be myself around her, and to take a leap that proved to be one of the best decisions I've ever made. Marisa and I worked together from that point forward doing Phage outreach. She would come into my classroom and teach students about phages, how research can be done, and gave students the tools to do their own phage digging. And she often brought Corey Sonneman, one of her first students who would become pivotal in the success of phage outreach. The plan was simple. Use a college student and a professor to engage high school students in research that could be then furthered in a university setting. Show students that science was not difficult and unattainable. It was right in their own backyard, and it could be done with ease and even be fun. The outcome was brilliant, and it worked for so many reasons. First, outsiders are so much cooler than the same old teacher every day. College students? Please, nobody is cooler. Even I knew how cool Marisa and Corey were. We all had some degree of hero worship happening. Second, students got to see possibility. The possibilities that college could offer. The possibilities of using science to solve problems and offer solutions. The possibilities they could become future scientists and problem solvers. It was a safe, nurturing environment that fostered a shared love of science and an empowerment that led to self-awareness, confidence, and the joy of being part of a larger effort. How could all of that not rub off on me, too? Fast forward, at this point I'd probably taught for 10 years. Most of my colleagues had or were working on master's degrees in curriculum or administration, and I knew those areas didn't hold any interest to me. I loved science, and I loved teaching. Honestly, I was simply proud to develop curriculum, clubs, expand course offerings, and survive as a single mom. I don't know if Marisa remembers this day quite like I do, but this was a day I'll never forget. We had become friends, our kids had become friends, and I stopped by her house to talk with her about an idea she had put in my head, a graduate degree through Montana Tech that could expand the research we were already doing and that we already had going on in my classroom. It was a beautiful sunny day, and Marisa was making dinner in the kitchen. Kyle was in the backyard, and he was desperately wanting for someone to play catch with him. So I grabbed a mitt, and I headed out to the backyard. We started tossing the ball, and Marisa kept working on dinner. Not surprisingly, Marisa's kids take after her in their exceptional athletic ability. Here was a kid half my size who could throw a heater that left my hands stinging. As we threw the ball, the returns got harder and faster. He kept up. I tried. And then, in a split second, I threw before realizing he had moved his glove down and turned to look at something. The baseball hit him square in the face, and in seconds he was covered in blood. I was mortified. I had hit Marisa's son in the face with a ball, and not softly. And now he was bleeding and crying. And to be honest, cleaning him up and calming him down is a bit of a blur. Because considering what I had come there to talk to her about, I thought, this is it. It's over. What did I do, and how can I get out of here? I know she handled the mom situation like she does, with impeccable efficiency, ease, matter-of-factness, and love. Kyle was fine. In fact, he still talks to me. But in that moment, I was a bit of a puddle. I had come over that night to talk to her about an interdisciplinary Master's of Science degree. I had come for her advice. In that time, I was feeling overwhelmed, unsure, and so afraid of making a decision that would take time and resources away from my daughter, add challenge to a full-time teaching career, and I wasn't sure I even had what it would take. Here's what I remember. Soon I was the one crying, spilling out my fears. While her dinner got cold, Marisa calmly talked me through the reality of what it could look like, what it could mean, how it could happen. She encouraged me to spend time and effort on myself. And together we worked out a plan to write an MJ Murdoch's Partners in Science grant. It took what we already had working in the classroom and it expanded it for the good of my students, both of our schools, and myself. That day changed who I was. Marisa plainly pointed out that to do good for others, sometimes it began with doing good for myself. I immersed myself fully in research while also completing a master's degree. Both of these things made me a stronger educator, and it unlocked a deeper love for my field. Since undertaking Murdoch, Marisa and I have continued to work together throughout the years. Some of my proudest moments have been attending and presenting at conferences with her and watching my own students learn from her at Montana Tech in the summer pipelines, or especially when they become her students. There are a mix of some less than ideal memories in our journey, like when students forget tubes after you brag them up as being capable and smart, or the one student who stole extra supplies because syringes without needles are cool, or the continued glaring absence of my administration. Our time doing phage digging brought all the feels. Those of you as teachers who know this experience recognize those emotions better than almost any other lesson you've taught. Nothing could be so empowering, humbling, intimidating, interesting, and awesome, quite like the days when Marisa came to the classroom. We continued this partnership for years. I did my master's degree with her as my mentor. And I'd just like to point out, you saw those pictures of her, right? Imagine her as a mentor and doing the wrong thing. It was a little intimidating. But she gave me autonomy to choose my thesis, and I never threw hard with Kyle ever again. The continued outreach became a rite of passage in Anaconda. The students would talk about how excited they were to get to do phage digging as they moved up the ranks and in the classes. And even before grants were written to fund summer research, I had students work outside of class with her. She welcomed students in to run PCR on their isolated bacterial samples, and she helped us with bioinformatics. And the outreach done was not just getting to my students. I had a paraprofessional who was so inspired that she spent an entire summer at Tech working on phages. This was a woman whose children were growing, and she just loved science that much. When the BRIC program rolled out, I was honored to be the teacher liaison for an outstanding cohort of new teachers learning about phages, and later a teacher mentor for the Phages program. These opportunities were the setting for my continued growth as an educator and a scientist. As teachers, we think we are the ones educating, but those of you in this room know and can attest to how much learning we did in the process. I lost count of the times that we would get opportunities to learn from the best scientists like Marisa, Katie Haler, Bev Hartline, Jim Driver, Raylan Brandel, Robin Bullock. We would take it all in, starstruck, have so many burning questions, be inspired, awed, and go forth with a renewed sense of purpose. The community that has been built through the lens of phage digging is among the most inspiring groups I have ever been part of. When I think of who has been brought together by phages, I am humbled, and I feel very braggy about my colleagues and friends. This group has become the most intelligent group of adventurous, adaptable, resourceful, smart-ass overachievers I could ever hope to be part of. And yet, when I think of how awesome you all are, and the countless awards earned, conferences presented at, papers published, etc., I can't help but feel slightly less than deserving than the rest of you. You see, I am one of the 6. There's the Elite 8, the Final 4. I don't know what you call the 6. the superb 6, the savvy 6, whatever we would be called, we, the 6, or the original 6 Phage mentors, Sarah Urban, Megan Lane, Linda Rost, Robin Hain, Steve McCauley. These 6 have embarked on a journey to find and keep a mentee partner to master the process of phage digging from start to finish, to outfit their labs to university standard, and to continue forward with phage digging in their schools. Maybe it should be the superhero 6. They get shiny badges and capes. Whatever the name. You see, I got the finding a mentee part down. In fact, I was good at it. I found 2. It was just the keeping part that I didn't get right. Because to date, I have lost not 1, but 2 mentees. And I myself am not teaching in a phage digging classroom anymore. So at this point, I can laugh at the irony of this situation, but the reality is teaching is hard. It is not for everyone. And in the current political, economic, and social agendas, teachers are under scrutiny and an inhumane amount of pressure. Those of you here who are continuing through this calling deserve to be commended and celebrated. I know your sacrifices, your battles, and how unfairly uneven the reward to work ratio can be. But this day, this group is what works about education. We are here in a shared love of the process and in an unwavering support of each other. In a very me-centered world that promotes self-advancement, I know that this group celebrates together. When one has a win, we are all lifted up and proud. When one has insight, it's shared and appreciated. There is support, there is equality, and there is a value to this community. What we are celebrating today needs to be the norm for how education and communities work together. Imagine the students, the future we would see if this was how all networks worked. In my journey through this community, I started out as part poster fangirl, maybe a Phages teacher sentry, but currently I serve now more in the role of proud colleague, ready to brag up those who continue on. Because you, the Fab 5, that's a PH, Fab 5, are now the future of phage digging. You have stuck with this endeavor throughout its challenges and incorporated it into the fabric of your curriculum, your schools, yourselves. You have polished its edges, personalized the delivery, and perfected the process. And you have brought into the fold a person equally as fit to inspire future scientists, a person who has worked alongside you for 5 years, molding an opportunity for research into a chance to inspire students, to solve real-world problems, and to strengthen the network of rockstar Montana science teachers. You and your own Fab 5, Jean, Jared, Jessica, Connie, and Blake, the tenacious 10, are worth celebrating today. You are who we all stand behind, ready to do what it takes to move forward with continued research, collaboration, and opportunities for Montana students. Moving away from Anaconda High School to a position at Montana Tech has been a big change for me. And it's one that I aspired to for a long time. But it also marks an end to some of these things. Montana Tech has been part of my life and who I am for years, but it has now changed how I fill my role as an educator. For 23 years, the experiences I shared with students and other teachers shaped me into someone who looked for opportunities to collaborate, improve curriculum and delivery, and to encourage the potential in students to enter STEM degrees and fields. I learned the importance of making connections in science that are relevant, fun, and possible for students. I learned ways to encourage curiosity in them. I learned how to lean on those around me, for inspiration and strength. And I learned that every person needs a Marisa in their lives. When I reflect on the Phage work I have been part of throughout the years, I have many memories that I can laugh about, and many more that bring me pride. But what I have felt throughout this journey has always been consistent. I have felt supported, empowered, and valued. I know the people I've shared this Phage journey with have felt the same. While my role is not as a teacher or mentor anymore, this is what will stay the same. I will not forget what makes a group like this one work. I will strive to create the same feelings with my own colleagues, in my own students, no matter their ages, experiences, or place of learning. To strive to be the Marisa for the unsure, for the students, for the future scientists. I will always be a Phage ally. And unlike my two mentees, we won't name names, I won't be going anywhere. So Jean, I'm all yours. You may be wondering about this picture in the background. I've got one slide. Besides the greatest way to water a plant ever, this picture was the one that helped me decide what to share with you today. Years ago, this plant was a gift from a fellow colleague. She had an African violet that was growing beautifully unrestrained and out of control. She repotted the plant and started a shoot for me. I should tell you that this teacher has a way with plants. Her classroom is like a tropical paradise that it rivals Home Depot in the spring. But in her classroom, not just the plants flower and grow. Her students are nurtured and mature into admirable poets, confident orators, and gifted writers who bring characters to life. For her to gift me this plant gave me hope. Maybe I could have a small piece of beauty that would grow along with my students. If I could keep this plant, help it grow, thrive, what parallels could I draw? Did I have what it took to grow plants and students, to see the flowers and the fruits of my labor? It turns out, no. I'm more of an outdoor gardener. This plant hardly grew. It never flowered. The leaves curled up and most fell off. I wasn't even sure it was an African violet anymore. But yeah, and yes, I watered it. And yes, it was in the sun. But the good news was that in the years that I fostered this plant, I did see my students grow. I watched as many of them planned college degrees in STEM. Several worked on summer pipeline projects. Students who had never shown interest were enrolling in upper-level science classes. Conversations were robust around healthcare, environmental stewardship, vaccines, mental health, the validity of primary documents, and scientifically literate voters. Encouragement, scientific endeavors, support, and celebration of hard work were our core values, much like what we see here today. When I left Anaconda High School, I left with a feeling of pride. I was proud of the programs that I had built and I had bettered. I was proud of the students that found their passions and the rigor and the high expectations that I held them to. I took this pride with me and a sad little plant that had seen better days. And the plant went into my office overlooking the highlands and the town where I grew up. It has sat in the same windowsill since starting my new position at Montana Tech. And since the beginning of fall semester, it has never gone a day without flowers. It could be the ingenious watering system or the southern sun, but what I choose to see is a plant that has what it takes to flower. I see myself in a new setting, set up for success, and in the place perhaps I'm meant to be. I have a strong foundation, built from shared experiences that educators can understand. I have been given the gift of not just Marisa, but a network of like-minded, brilliant colleagues that I can count on, call on, and continue to be amazed by. I will always be a supporter and proponent for immersing students into real-life research and scientific opportunities. and I still have students. I have the chance to show them the possibilities their hard work and curiosity can open up. I have the chance to encourage their confidence, start conversations that build bridges and form bonds. I will tell you that college students, high school, middle school, they have a lot in common. When they look to an educator, there's hesitation, trust, possibility, the desire to be seen, heard, and valued. Sometimes all it takes is a simple walk through a park, searching for flowers, or the opportunity to encourage possibilities that can spark the scientific light in students. You, as a group, are the most powerful determinant of the first real steps to their success and appreciation of science, and this deserves celebration. I will leave you with this advice. Be a Marisa. Help them to flower. Thank you.